Filing taxes can feel really overwhelming, and if you do it wrong, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table, or worse, end up paying penalties. So this is the ultimate beginner-friendly guide on how to file your taxes. I'm gonna split this video into 5 parts. In part 1, I'm gonna give you an overview of how taxes work. Part 2 is all about whether you should hire an accountant or file yourself. Part 3 is about the most common tax documents that you might need. Part 4, I'll walk you through how to actually file your taxes. And part 5, I'll cover the 3 most common mistakes that people make that you should definitely avoid. You can skip around this video if you want, but there's a good chance you're gonna miss something important, and then you're just gonna be more confused. So my suggestion is just watch the whole video. It's only gonna take a couple minutes. So starting with the basics, how does this whole tax thing actually work? What's actually going on? So I like to imagine taxes just like any subscription service that you have. And you know how subscriptions offer like different types of plans where it's like basic, standard, and premium? Well, instead of plans, the tax system has tax tiers based on how much money you earn. And you can kind of think of it like a partnership, right, between you and the government, where the government needs funding for school and roads, and they get part of that funding from our income taxes. But instead of asking for one big annual payment at the end of the year, the government just takes it from your job's paycheck, which, to be fair, does sound a little bit sketchy. But your employer is in on it, so I guess it's not that bad, but they're essentially like your tax assistant. Basically, every time you get paid, your employer is gonna look at your earnings and say, okay, based on how much you're making, you'll probably end up in this tax tier by the end of the year. So just like how a subscription service charges you every month, your employer automatically takes out taxes from your paycheck and then sends that to the government for you. Now, here's where your tax return and what you're trying to do right now actually comes into play, right? At the end of the year, you're basically doing a final check to make sure that everything is correct. You're gonna look at your total income for the year, you're gonna figure out exactly how much you should have paid in taxes, and then you're gonna compare it to what your employer actually sent to the government. If your employer took out more than what you actually needed to pay in taxes, like you were being charged for a premium plan, but you only consumed basic content, then the government will be like, oops, sorry, here's your extra money back as a refund. But if your employer didn't take out enough, like you upgraded to a premium plan in the middle of the year and you've only been paying basic plan for the entire year, then you'll need to pay the difference. The point is, filing your tax returns is just making sure that you paid the right amount for your tax subscription tier. Okay, next, so a very common question I get all the time is, should I hire an accountant or should I file my own taxes? And I would say for most people, you're probably better off filing your own taxes. I know it feels really overwhelming right now, but trust me, it's actually a lot easier than you think, and I'll prove it to you later on in this video. So there's a bunch of tax prep software online that basically guides you through everything you need to do, which can be really helpful. Now, in terms of which tax prep software is the right one for you, my answer is it really depends on your specific needs, but what you should be basing your decision on is which software is more user-friendly, the least amount of stress, and will get you every dollar that you deserve. Like on one hand, you can technically file everything yourself by hand like we did years ago. And on the other hand, you can work with a really expensive accountant. So just find something that fits your needs. I checked out a bunch of different options and decided to sign up with Turbotax full service as they have live dedicated tax experts on the Turbotax platform who walk you through everything live. And from what I can see, this has the best middle ground solution for me. And the best part is you don't have to feel overwhelmed doing your own taxes. And plus, a dedicated tax expert is still a lot more affordable than an accountant. All right, so now let's cover the most common tax documents that most people need to file your tax return. Now, keep in mind, a tax year goes from January 1st to December 31st, which means that the tax documents that you need, you get them after the tax year ends. I'll talk more about when you should expect each document a bit later, but here are the most common tax forms that you will be looking for. The first form is the W-2 tax form. If you have a job, you're an employee, you're basically gonna get this from your employer. And it shows 2 key things. Number 1 is how much money you made, and 2, how much taxes your employer already sent to the government. If you also contributed to your 401k or any other retirement accounts, that's also going to be reflected here. The next form is the 1099-B form. If you've invested in the stock market, this is what you'd get from your brokerage account. It basically shows you all your capital gains, your capital losses, dividends, and interest income that you received. Next is the 1099-INT form. And you get this if you earn more than $10 in interest income, for example, from like a high yield savings account, from your CDs or bonds. And you can get this form from the place that you received the interest income from, it's basically going to tell you the total interest you earned for that year. Next is the 1099 NEC form. If you did any freelancing or contractor work or any side hustles where you earned more than $600, you can get this form from whoever paid you that money. It basically tells you your total earnings that you got from your side hustle. The next one is your 1098 form, and this is if you have a house and you have an existing mortgage. You can get this form from your mortgage lender, and it basically tells you how much you paid in interest, which you may be able to deduct from your taxes and potentially lower your taxes. Next is the 1098E form, and this is if you have student debt and you've been paying off your loans. You can get this from whoever your student loan lender provider is, and it basically tells you how much you paid in interest for your student loans, and again, you may be able to deduct this from your taxes, which may lower your taxes. The next form is the 1098T, and this is if you're currently in school and you're paying tuition. You can get this form from your school, and it basically tells you how much you paid in tuition, which you may be able to deduct from your taxes. Next is the 1099R form, and this is if you took money out from your retirement accounts, and you can get it from whoever your plan administrator is. This basically shows you the total amount that you withdrew. Now, in terms of when you actually receive these documents, you're going to receive most of them by the end of January. But for some of them, you may get them near mid to late February. And you won't always get them in the mail in physical copies. Sometimes you'll have to manually go online to the website and look under taxes and documents to actually download the form, like from your online bank or your brokerage platform. All right, so now that you know some of the most common tax documents that you'll need, now I'm gonna walk you through how to actually file your tax returns. And like I mentioned earlier, you can do this completely by yourself if you want to, but again, I think a great middle ground solution that has the least amount of stress and is most cost effective is the Turbotax full service. So that's what I'm gonna use, and that's what I'm gonna show you for an example walkthrough. Oh, by the way, since I use Turbotax full service a lot in this video, I actually reached out to them and asked if they'd like to partner up for this video and give you all some kind of discount. They agreed, so with the link in the description, you can get 15% off when you file through my link by April 15. All right, so to start your return, you need to make an account. Just fill out the form with your email, choose a user ID and your password, and you want to make sure that it's a really strong password because, you're going to be giving a lot of personal and sensitive information in this. Then select the Turbotax Live with full service product and schedule a welcome call with a tax expert. This part is actually really helpful because they'll walk you through the tax process and you can ask any questions you have, and they'll also tell you what documents and forms that you'll need to prepare for your tax return. For most people, it's going to be some of the most common documents that I mentioned earlier, like your W-2 and your ID, as well as your prior year tax return. What's really helpful is literally while you're on the call with your tax expert, you can upload your documents or anything else that they request by simply taking a picture with your phone. And they'll look over everything and request any remaining information or document that they need just to make sure that you get all the tax credits and deductions possible. After that, the tax expert's just gonna handle the rest of it, and they're gonna have your taxes prepped and ready to file in as little as 2 hours. Then after you reviewed your return and you're ready to e-file, you'll just pay and then electronically sign your return. Your tax expert will then file your return for you, and you can download and save a copy of your return for your records. Then you're just going to be notified when your return has been accepted by the IRS. So again, if you're interested in using Turbotax full service, just check out the link below. You can get 15% off Turbotax when you follow through my link by April 15th. And even if you're not completely ready yet to start your taxes, I'd still suggest you just click on the link so you can kind of see and know what you're getting yourself into. All right, now I want to touch on the 3 most common mistakes people make when filing their taxes, from least to most severe, and also how you can avoid them. Number 1, the first mistake, and this is something that a lot of people always tend to forget about. So a lot of people recently have started picking up side hustle nowadays, meaning whether you occasionally drive for like a ride share service or you sell stuff online, you don't want to forget that you need to report that side hustle income. And even if you didn't get a 1099 NEC form from whoever paid you that money, you still have to report that income. Next, I cannot emphasize this enough, but if you make this second mistake, you will get penalized, and it can get pretty expensive. And this mistake is thinking about filing your tax returns late because you think you can't pay for it right now. You see, the problem is the penalties for filing your taxes late are actually much higher than the penalties for paying late. So even if you can't pay it now, you still want to file on time and maybe look up setting up a payment plan or something with the IRS. Next, the third mistake, and probably the most severe one, because if you forget doing this, you're gonna end up paying a lot more in taxes, which no one wants to do. So the third mistake is not looking for as many tax deductions as you can to reduce your taxes. And a few deductions that people commonly forget about are their student loan interest payments, their charitable donations, and your home energy tax credits, which is kind of also another reason why working with a tax expert is helpful, because they can look out for these deductions and credits that you may qualify for. There's a bunch more stuff that I don't have time and can't fit into this video, but if you want to learn how to pay even less in taxes, check out this video where I show you 4.5 strategies on how you can legally pay less taxes so you can keep as much of your money as you can.